A recent exchange in Parliament illustrated how the sand deodorant eco-marxist idiots in the Green Party don't even understand what entity they've been elected to serve. I was disappointed when Winston Peters, who is qualified in law, argued a point of order against the Green Party eco-Marxists' repeated use of the word Aotearoa when they should be saying New Zealand. He didn't argue the bloody obvious answer, which, if I'm honest, Winston, was a bit of a fail. But to be fair, he did almost get there and he did mount a half-reasonable objection, but he didn't fire the silver bullet. Let's watch this.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Immigration. Does she stand by her statement that, quote, "We know the importance of family reunification in this government"? If so, does she think it's fair to deport people who have been born in Aotearoa, separating them from their communities and families?
Point of order, the Right Honourable Winston Peters.
Speaker, this is a very serious point of order. Why is someone who applied to come to this country in 2006 allowed to ask a question in this Parliament to change this country's name without the referendum and sanction of the New Zealand people?
Sorry, I couldn't quite follow that entire... Start again.
Speaker, my question is a serious one. Why is someone who applied to come to a country called New Zealand as an immigrant in 2006 allowed in this House to change the country's name without the mandate, the approval or referendum of the New Zealand people?
Well, sort of working through it a little bit, could I just say that the person asking the question is an elected member of this House. If he is using a name that's not acceptable to others listening, then I can't do much about that other than to say the point is acknowledged. And Ricardo Mendes March, please carry on with your question.
Does she support regularising the immigration status of people who were born and have grown up in Aotearoa? And if not, why not?
I think it's probably not an unreasonable thing to perhaps use, if you want to, the two names Aotearoa and New Zealand, but not just the one. Quite clearly, the Minister is sworn as a Minister of a government in New Zealand. Simple as that.
Is that for both?
All right.
Point of order, the Honourable Kira McAnulty.
Thank you very much. I actually think this is quite significant, what you've just said now.
Yeah, I know it is.
In any other instance, a direct translation from English to Te Reo in this House is permissible because Te Reo Māori is an official language of this country. Are you saying that in any other instance, a word could be used, Te Reo, instead of the English version, and ever since it's been official and able to be used in this House, that's okay? But now all of a sudden, members cannot use the term Aotearoa unless they follow it up with New Zealand?
Speaking of the point of order, the Honourable Shane Jones.
A key part of the contribution from the honourable member was a direct translation. Go to the treaty. New Zealand is transliterated as New Tireni. Pemba Reeves popularised the word Aotearoa.
Steve Ogle.
Can I just clarify? New Tireni, New Zealand, was a name given by a Dutch person on their arrival on these shores. Aotearoa is a widely accepted name that originates from the indigenous people of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
The point of order.
Speaker. Point of order, the Right
In the 1880s and 1890s, a white colonist popularised that name. Before that, no Maori ever thought that was the name for this country because it comes from French Polynesia.
Look, I was trying to make it clear that for the order of question time, it might be helpful if there was if a person was to refer to Aotearoa, New Zealand. In this case, I noticed both words are used at different parts of the primary question, which I think is also kind of interesting. But Standing Order 109 does make it clear that you can address the House in either Te Reo or English. The issue around the geographic naming of New Zealand is a slightly different thing, and I'll take some time to think about that and come back to the House.
Okay, Winston, here's the point you should have made in Parliament, maybe with a little more brevity. Aotearoa is a name attributed to the landmass known as the Islands of New Zealand. The name has its origins in the native oral tradition. It's a name that historically is believed to refer to the northern mainland island alone. Its application to the whole territory is a modern development. Aotearoa cannot be used to describe the sovereign nation state of New Zealand. The islands making up the territory that New Zealand governs are not all there is to the state of New Zealand. The territory is but a component of our nation, not its sum total. The independent sovereign state of New Zealand includes the corpus of law heralded in under the Treaty of Waitangi. It includes the roads, the public buildings, the infrastructure, all the publicly owned resources. It includes the population, the military, the courts, and the machinery of state governance. Our Parliament is head of state, not head of landmass. Aotearoa is not the name given to the sovereign state governed by what the members of the Tipurangi Māori Party persistently refer to as the colonial government. Whether or not there was ever an Aotearoa nation, presumably populated by Aotearoa Stilians, the name is certainly not the name of the independent sovereign nation state of New Zealand populated by New Zealanders. I've yet to hear a descendant of a native claim to be an Aotearoa Stilian. Parliament is the head of the sovereign state, and its day-to-day business must refer to the state by its constitutional name, New Zealand. The term Aotearoa is an ethnic reference to the territory alone, not the state, and its use in official discourse misrepresents the historical and legal foundations of our nation. If we are to maintain clarity, legitimacy, and historical accuracy in our governance, then Parliament must uphold the legal and constitutional identity of the state of New Zealand and not replace it with a name that predates the existence of the independent sovereign state of New Zealand and refers only to a landmass. I don't care what some politically diseased neo-Marxist lunatic from Mexico and the Gulf of America wants to call the territory that he thinks he migrated to, but when serving in our Parliament, he should use the name of the sovereign state that let him onto its territory in the first place. The issue of being accurate about the subject of the discussion when we talk about New Zealand is important in the wider context. This is because New Zealand started out as the New Zealand Islands. It was part of New South Wales, Australia. Then in 1840 a British colony was established here and New Zealand became a British overseas territory. It later became a British Dominion and then finally the independent sovereign state of New Zealand. You can see when someone talks about New Zealand in the temporal context of 1835, they're not talking about the same constituted sovereign New Zealand nation that exists in 2025. Many of you won't know that that final step to an independent sovereign nation state marks the completion of decolonisation, which was always the intention of the British Crown when it established a colony in the first place. That step happened on the 1st of January 2004, which is technically New Zealand Independence Day, or Decolonisation Day if you want to make it sound appealing to Raw Willie Waiatiti and Irish Debs. That's the day that the New Zealand Supreme Court replaced the UK Privy Council as our final court of appeal. That was the day that our last remaining thread of foreign oversight was severed, bringing to an end any residual colonial influence on our nation. Which brings me to my last point. Shouldn't we be celebrating our Independence Day rather than Waitangi Day, the day that British colonial rule was established? I like the idea of dropping February the 6th as a holiday and instead celebrating New Zealand Independence Day on the closest working day either side of New Year's Day. Both Australia and USA celebrate their Independence Day rather than the day marking the start of colonisation on their respective territories. What do you think? Should we celebrate the day of our independence as a sovereign nation state, or the day that the hated British colonial government tricked the natives to steal all their land and commit genocide on them? How about the rules in our House of Parliament? Should we require members to refer to the sovereign state that they are the head of by its only constitutionally correct name? Please do leave a comment and let me know what you think. Thanks for watching, give us a like, would you? And click subscribe to be notified of new content as it drops. See you next time.